Welcome back, Agent. Now that we know how to send emails, let's review how we can use Python to view received emails. To view received emails with Python, we can use the built-in IMAP-lib and email libraries in Python. The IMAP-lib library has a special syntax for searching your inbox. There's a table like this in the notebook corresponding to this lesson, but basically the idea is that there are particular keywords and then there's definitions that refer to those keywords. And you'll be able to search your inbox for particular emails, such as checking emails by date, so you have keywords like before a date, on a date, or since a date, checking emails based on who sent them, so from some sort of email, or who you sent them to some email. You can also check by CC or BCC, so carbon copy or blind carbon copy. You can also check by the subject string, the body string, or just any text string. And you can also return emails based if you've seen them or you haven't seen them, if you've answered them or if you haven't answered them, and also deleted or undeleted messages as long as they still exist in your trash bin. Certain email providers will automatically erase everything in your trash bin after 30 days. So you can see here there's a lot of keywords and functionality built in to what we're going to be using. Before beginning this discussion, go ahead and send yourself a test email with some sort of unique subject line that you will be able to remember and search for using Python. Or you can simply use the last email that you sent yourself from the previous lesson. Let's begin exploring checking received emails with Python by loading up a Jupyter Notebook. The first thing we're going to do is import the IMAP-lib library that's built into Python, and we'll create an instance of it. And you can call this variable whatever you want, but a lot of times people call it a capital M. And we'll say IMAP-lib, and then call IMAP for SSL, and then we will pass in the IMAP server for Gmail, which is imap.gmail.com. And then we need to grab our password and email. So to do that, you can either use input or get pass. We'll say that our email is equal to get pass email, and then we'll also grab our actual password for the email, get pass. And remember, for Gmail users, this is your app password. So let's run this. We'll go ahead and enter your email for whatever you happen to be using. And then you can also put in your password. In this case, I'm putting in the app password. Let's now connect. We can say m.login, and we'll pass in email and password. Run that, and you should be able to log in, and you should see some sort of authenticated success message there. Once you've done that, you'll be able to type in m.list as a method, run that, and you can see everything that you can check in your particular email. Typically, you'll be checking your inbox, but you can also see you can check personal, receipts, sent, trash, things labeled travel or work, drafts, important, sent mail, spam, starred, trash. So there's lots of different options, different flags that Gmail or other email providers have for you. We're going to select the most common one, which is your inbox, meaning we'll say M, select, and we'll pass in inbox. Run that, and then it should say OK and some sort of connection number to your inbox. Your number will likely be different than mine here. And then now that we've connected to our mail, we're going to be able to search for it using the specialized syntax of IMAP. Now the next step after we've logged in is to actually search our inbox. And this is the sort of syntax you can use to specify what messages you're looking for. In our case, we will attempt to search for that email that we just sent earlier that was a subject line, new test Python. So we say type and data, basically doing tuple unpacking, because the actual search function that we call is going to return a tuple. And you pass in none as the first argument, and then the second argument is the actual string that uses this sort of code. So you can say, for instance, before, and then format a date such as 01 November 2000, and this will essentially search all your email and return back everything sent before 01 November 2000. Or you could do on a certain date or since a certain date. You can do from a certain string. So for example, you could say from user at example.com, and maybe you didn't know who the actual user was at this example.com. The other thing you could say is just from example, and it will search for all the email addresses from and see if the string example is in there. The other thing you can do that we're going to be doing is search by subject. So notice how these keywords are capitalized. We'll say subject, and then inside of this string, we'll have another substring, and this will be the actual string we're checking for. So the subject line that we passed in last time was new test Python. So that's what we're going to be searching here. Notice how it's a string inside of a string. And let's run this and see what we get. If you select type, it should say OK. And if you have data, it should have some sort of number. If you don't have any sort of number returned here, it means it didn't find any messages. If you have multiple numbers here in a list, it means it found more than one message that relates to whatever search term you were looking for. So this unique ID is the ID that references the actual email. We don't have the email itself yet. To do that, we now need to fetch the actual data. So if we take a look at the first item in this list, it's this unique ID. So we will say ID is equal to, well, we'll say email ID. Email ID is equal to that item in the list. And then we'll say result, email underscore data is equal to M. And then we end up fetching that particular email ID. And then for a second argument, we need to pass in a protocol. And the protocol for that is a string with parentheses RFC822. Now that we've actually fetched the email data, we can take a look at this email data. And it's basically going to be a bit of a sloppy mess. There's lots of information here, the emails, but if you take a look down here, we can see that we have the subject and we actually have the message we sent. Hello, this is a test. And this is all within a list, within some tuples. So we just want to grab the actual message itself. So what we're going to do is index for it. We'll type out raw email is equal to email data, and its index position, you may need to play around for this, but in our case it's at 0, 1. So that's the raw email itself, and we want the raw email string. We'll type out raw email string is equal to this raw email, and we're going to need to decode it. And the reason for that is because there may be symbols such as the @ symbol, which is confusing to Python sometimes. So we want to clarify that we're going to decode it with UTF-8 encoding. And then once we've done that, we can use the built-in email library to help parse that string. We will import email, and this email library helps grab the actual message from a string. And the syntax is still a bit strange, but it looks like this. You say email message, and then from the email that we just imported, we'll type out message from. And in this case, we're grabbing the message from a string, and then we pass in that raw email string that we just created. And then once we've done that, we need to do the following. The actual email message object here, if we take a look at it, it's this iterator. And what we need to do is say for every part in the email message dot walk, so you can kind of walk through this email message object, if part dot get content type is equal to text / plain, then body is equal to part dot get payload, and say decode is equal to true, and then print the body. Now this is quite complicated, but the reason this is complicated is because we're basically going from that raw string email message and trying to get rid of all the other information that came in through the email data. There's lots of different ways you could decide to look through the subject once you have this actual email data yourself. It's optional to use this email library. Sometimes people feel that it's more of a hassle to use this email library and they'd rather make their own custom script to grab the email data. And if you're dealing with emails that look the same every time, maybe it's from some API service, it might make sense to not use this actual email library that's built in. But if you do want to use this email library that's built in, once you have the raw email string from your actual email data, after you've decoded it, you type out email message from string, and then you say for part and email message walk. If the part get content type, which basically asks, hey, what is the content type of the part? And if it's equal to text / plain, meaning it's plain text, you grab the payload of that part, decoding it, and then that's the actual variable that we want to see. So if we print this out, we should be able to see the actual body of the message, which is, hello, this is a test. And this B indicates that it's a byte string, just because of the way we read in that email data. Keep in mind, this sort of content type check, text/plain, that's if you only expect just plain text. What you could also do is maybe expect text/HTML, and that's really common if someone has provided a link inside of the email. So if you expect another link to be in the email that was sent to you, you may want to check for text/HTML instead of text/plain. Okay, that's it for the basics of checking your received email with Python. Let's quickly go over all the steps. All you have to do is import IMAP_lib, make the connection to your IMAP server, so it's imap.gmail.com or imap.yahoo.com, depending on what your actual domain provider is. Then grab your email and password, log in. You can see a list of options, but typically you'll be searching your inbox, and then using the special syntax code, you search for whatever you're looking for, whether it's particular subject, whether it's a particular email that it's from, a date that it was sent on. You get back the type and data, and the data, recall, is just a list of actual email IDs. Once you have those email IDs, you need to fetch them. And here we're fetching a singular email ID, and we pass in this protocol for fetching it. And then we have the email data, and it's kind of up to you what you want to do at that point because it's a bit of a mess, but one way you can deal with it is using this email library and then using this walk functionality to check for particular content types. All right, that's it. It's time for your mission. Best of luck on it, agent.